What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into the Celtics Talk Weekly podcast. I am your host, Robby. Joined with me is my co-host, Justin Lowe, and then my other co-host. You guys might have seen him. You've never seen him on this channel before, but you might have seen him with the LFG Media doing his little sidewalk talks. Guys, welcome in Randy Elfman, who will be joining us this season. Randy, how's it going?
Rob, it's going good. Ready for a great Celtics season. Want to talk some C's basketball? Let's do it. We're 6 hours ahead now in Italy, so late night for me, but ready nonetheless. Let's do it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, guys, before we get started with the whole Celtics stuff, there is something worth noting. Now, before I get into that, I just want to say, if you're not already following us on our social medias, go do that right now. Everything will be in the link below in the description. If you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcast, you can catch us in the little description box on our main account and channel there. But guys, so this Sunday, some history happened here, right? Obviously, the New England Patriots picked up a week 1 win under a new head coach, Gerard Mayo.
Let's
Obviously,
go.
now, guys, I know we don't talk a lot of Pats, and we're really not going to be talking a lot of Pats, but I thought this was pretty interesting. Now, the last time the New England Patriots picked up their first win under a new head coach, which was previously Bill Belichick for 23 years, guys, it was the year 2000. I was not born. I don't think any of us were born yet. However, guys, now you might ask, what did the Boston Celtics look like back then? Well, Rick Pitino was head coaching the Boston Celtics. They had finished a 36-46 that year under Paul Pierce, who was in his fourth year. Their third leading scorer that year was Brian Stith, averaging 9.7 points per game. The Celtics had only risen 16 banners at that point. Jayson Tatum was only 2 years old. Guys, absolutely wild with those stats. So congrats to the
Yeah,
New
that's
England
that's
Patriots.
crazy.
I look forward to continuing to watch them. Hopefully they keep doing their thing. Gerard Mayo, very deserving head coach, very deserving win over on that side of things. However, guys, before I hop into the Celtic stuff, I do want to say the podcast is back and here to stay. You can catch us every week on Wednesdays at noon live on our YouTube channel. It'll be premiering there and also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, guys. We're super excited for this season. We're bringing in a brand new crew with the old guys returning. We're going to have hopefully a bunch of special guests. So a lot of big things planned this year for CTW guys in the mix. So very, very exciting moving forward. But let's talk C's. Let's get right into this. And I won't lie, we're at the dry spot of the NBA season. There's really not a whole lot to talk about here because of the weird kind of time we're in, right? It's not the off season and there's not, free agency moves and trades being made and draft picks happening. Rather than, no preseason, no media days, no training camps. So we're kind of in that weird 2 week period before all that kicks off. So we're going to talk a little bit of Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum because I didn't get to do it neither did you, Justin, and neither did Ian, who's not here tonight. But, obviously you didn't get to, Randy. We didn't get to really talk about JB and JT in this weird fandom that the national media has against these two players, trying to drive a wedge, it feels like, between the two stars on Boston. Guys, now, what is it with the national media's obsession trying to break these two guys up?
Year after year, Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown get better. And year after year, excuse me, the Celtics are there when it matters most. Yes, they've only won one title in the 8 years that Jaylen Brown or Jayson Tatum has been there. But the Celtics have been very successful throughout Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown's career. I think it's just pure hate. I think it boils down to just hate. I think it is such a everybody's so quick to jump on Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. It kind of blows my mind a little bit. We'll use a vocab word from a couple years ago. It's mind boggling is what it is. I think what ticks me off even more is it's not only the national media coverage, but it's also local coverage of the team. I'm not going to go out here and name names. People know. People know who they are. Certain shows on the radio know who they are. But it's this own. It's like the home team just totally ripping each other apart. You just don't do that. And Randy, I feel like every year, Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, it doesn't matter how good they do. It doesn't matter what they do. If Tatum likes mustard and Brown likes ketchup, they're going to make a whole debate about that. They're going to make a whole issue about that, Randy. So to me, I don't know what the fandom is. I don't know what the obsession is. It's ridiculous. And even after Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown won a title together, where Jaylen Brown wins MVP and Jayson Tatum sits back and just absolutely enjoys it for himself and for his teammate Jaylen Brown. Camera cuts to Jayson Tatum when Jaylen Brown went to MVP. And all of a sudden, social media goes, oh, look at, he's not smiling, or look at his eyebrows raised. Oh, he's not happy for it. It's like they create so many narratives, Randy, and it's just ridiculous. I can't explain the fandom. Maybe you can explain it to me, but to give you my honest answer, Rob, I have no clue. I have absolutely no clue what the fandom is about breaking up Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, I mean, Justin, you hit it right on the head with our hometown. I mean, media just absolutely ripping Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown apart. I mean, we all know what Jayson Tatum did in the playoffs. I mean, by far was he the most dominant NBA player this playoffs. I mean, and did Jaylen Brown deserve the MVP? He very much did. He deserved Eastern Conference MVP. He deserved Finals MVP. But like you said, I mean, immediately after Jaylen Brown wins Finals MVP, where does the camera go? Jayson Tatum. Camera goes right to Jayson Tatum, and you know why? Because everyone's trying to say, "Oh, Jayson Tatum didn't do enough. He got beat out by his teammate." And why are they doing that? Just like you said, I have no idea why. Why are they doing that? The two young superstars in the league. I mean, Tatum's going into his 7th season. Jaylen Brown's going into his 8th season. I know we all love to joke about, oh, Tatum's still 19. He's whatever. But no, the reality of it, he's going into his prime. I mean, if not, he already probably hit his prime, but I mean, he's going to have a long career. So he's heading right into the thick of his prime. And why are they trying to promote this stigma of turning Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum, two young superstars, against each other in front of their own Boston media? It makes no sense. And all it's going to do is what? They're going to try and bring the confidence down? I mean, I don't get it.
You know what's funny? It hasn't worked. Like, it just hasn't worked. Like, each year they've just gotten better and better and better. And I'm sure they hear the noise. I'm sure that they have to talk about it. Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown had a conversation. I think it was last training camp, or it might have been the training camp before, but essentially just to make sure, double check that they were both on the same page. Like, not every single guy in the locker room has the same personality. Nobody's living the same life. Everybody has their different journey. Everybody has their different personalities. That's life. That's being a human being, right? So I don't understand why, if Jayson Tatum does this, Jaylen Brown doesn't do this, all of a sudden they're against each other. Or Tatum has 35, and Brown has 28, all of a sudden, oh, Tatum's a ball hog, or oh, these guys can't coexist. And it just, to me, it's never, I don't think it's going to change. I don't, even going back to back, I just don't think it's going to change. I think I hope it does. I wish it did, but we're still hearing this. They just won an NBA championship together, and we're still hearing it. And honestly, I really don't think they care any less, because they're going to go out next year and they're going to continue to do what they do best. Now, we'll talk about this. There's a target on their forehead. Joe Mazzulla says there's a red dot on their forehead, man. Like, there absolutely is. So I'm excited to see how Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum specifically respond. I'm excited to see how Jayson Tatum responds after getting DNPs in the Olympics, where, all due respect, you guys know me, I'm a big Derek White guy, but there's no world where Jayson Tatum is getting DNPs when there's other certain players on Team USA, not just Derek White, are getting minutes over him. So I'm very, very, very excited to see how Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown specifically respond next year.
Well,
Yeah,
it's funny too, because you say, Justin, you'd think with the championship, the media would take a step back and appreciate that, what they had done and accomplished. And, we maybe got 12 hours of that, but the worst it's ever been was post championship. This summer, it was brutal. I mean, the leaving Jaylen Brown off of Team USA to begin with was perplexing. I didn't understand that one. He is one of the league's top 15 players, and the league has international players in that top 15, a lot of them. And then the disrespect that Jayson Tatum saw this Olympics was also very perplexing, because here's a guy that has been first team All NBA now 3 consecutive years. He's just coming off of an NBA championship. He is the cover of Sports Illustrated. He's the cover of NBA 2K. It's a green summer, and Jayson Tatum's at the forefront of it, right? He is the leading head of this Boston Celtics kind of summer that really we saw. However, it felt like Steve Kerr, and it felt like Team USA, and it felt like the national media had different plans for the summer, and they didn't want that to be the narrative. And that's upsetting, because one, Tatum and Brown don't deserve that. They are two guys that have done nothing but win since the moment they got into their, careers. They have been nothing but great. They have been nothing but showing up for the big moments when they needed to. So that's very disappointing. And then another thing I think that's, very disappointing for me is, it's not the end all be all if Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown aren't best friends, right? It's not a big deal if they aren't, on social media or doing commercials together or hanging out in the club on Saturday nights or whatever it might be, right? Tatum has his life. Brown has his life. What matters is how they play together on the basketball court. And quite frankly, there's no duo or tandem in the NBA, in the association, in the league, however you want to describe this thing, that does it as good and to the level in which Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum do it. So that's just the facts of the matter. And, Justin, you say, I don't know if there's a means to this end. I don't know if it'll ever, stop. And you might be right. But, the thing is with Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, you nailed it right on the head. It doesn't matter. It hasn't bothered them, and it won't bother them. It's only fuel to their fire. And I think that's the mindset they have to have, is that, listen, it is what it is. And the breath of fresh air it's got to feel for Jayson Tatum to be wheels down back in Boston come training camp. And because it kind of feels like that's the only place that really shows him the love that he deserves is in Boston. And, to step back on that court and to hang that banner on opening night, it's going to be great for those two, and they deserved it and they earned it. However, there is a bigger, something bigger at stake here. It's going back to back. And Joe Mazzulla had a great quote that he hopes that red dot is right between their eyeballs. And, he doesn't want it on their chest. He wants it right where you can see it. And, Joe Mazzulla is someone else I want to talk about, because I owe Joe apology.
Me too.
A rightful apology, because I believe that, and again, he was the right guy for this team when it was all said and done. Again, winning cures everything. But Joe Mazzulla is the perfect amount of crazy that this team needed. And that's kind of what you were looking for with Tatum and Brown, because of how laid back they were. Jaylen Brown isn't laid back anymore. He from year 7 to 8, he took this once Marcus Smart was traded, he took this big, I'm alpha, screw you. I'm the big dog in this locker room mentality. And I love it. He didn't have that before, but Joe Mazzulla gets these guys up. He gets these guys going. And I really want to talk about the Joe Mazzulla experience, guys, because his growth in Boston from when he got here until today, September 10th on Tuesday at 7:30 p.m., right? It has been truly remarkable what you have seen from Joe, right, Randy? And really, when you look at it, what to you, because, you also said he owes, you owe him an apology.
100%.
What has been
100%.
the biggest difference, do you think, that you have seen from Joe Mazzulla from when he got here into what we have the Joe Mazzulla today?
All right. So first off, I want to say, yeah, from day one when Joe Mazzulla came in for Ime Adoku, loved Ime. Awful what happened to him, but when Joe came in, and then had completed that season, then came in last year, and they couldn't get over the hump. I was saying, they have Jayson Tatum, all these. He wasn't pushing the right buttons. He has all these superstars. He has all these weapons. So something on his end is not clicking. He's got Derek White defense. He's got Al Horford. He had everything he needed. And honestly, it sounds really stupid, but the biggest difference I see with Joe Mazzulla from when they got out in 2022 and then or 2023 and then they won it in 2024 is I think his usage of timeouts. Really, that is so. I don't think people understand how big of an aspect to the game. We were watching in 2023 teams go on 12-0, 14-0, 16-2 runs. And we were just what? Weathering the storm. Joe was just sitting there. He's like, well, let him figure it out. This year, we saw Joe take timeouts, 6-0 runs. They came out hot, they would go on an 8-0 run. And we didn't see that happening in 2023. Maybe we did here and there, but it was all about consistency. I think the usage of timeouts that Joe Mazzulla used in this season actually was a really big difference maker in his coaching style as a whole, to be honest.
And you know what? I do want to jump in here real quick, Justin, before you give your thoughts off and kind of play off of that, because you saw that at times from Joe this past year, the championship season. But you didn't see it at all in the playoffs because he understood it's the playoffs. But what I think Joe was doing was fair to what Joe stood on and believed in. And there was a real sample size and evidence that he was able to use from those blown leads on really what are considered, in my opinion, meaningless games in the regular season for a team trying to win the championship, right? It's building blocks you want to look good. But, you're able to pull so much from that run and from that experience that that you can learn from. And for Celtics fans, they had gotten there just right there to the mountaintop so many times and have fallen short that it felt like it was such a pressure cooker for them, Justin, right? And it kind of felt like, and we talked about this a little bit last year, but we weren't fair. At least I wasn't fair to Joe Mazzulla for trying things out and understanding what he needs to do for playoff time.
No, absolutely. And it's going to sound so like, I'm not LeBron here. I'm not going to pull the LeBron James and say like, oh, like I was sitting in my room and I remember, I'm not, but I got to say, I believed in Joe. I really did. And I remember doing the podcast where actually it was a live stream because essentially it was when they were making the front office was making the decision on whether Ime was being suspended or whether he was being fired or whatever the case was. And we were going to find out who the new head coach was. And the Dogs' worst timing. It was Joe Mazzulla getting pulled 2 weeks before preseason. 2 weeks before preseason, Joe Mazzulla was getting this huge promotion. He was being thrusted in. He didn't get to pick a coaching staff and all that. And we talk about it with Derek White. And we were kind of talking about it with Xavier Tillman in the last podcast episode. It's like coming into a brand new situation, being thrusted into a brand new situation. You got to get a feel for it. You have to get a feel for it. And I think that's what Joe Mazzulla was doing. I think Joe Mazzulla was getting a feel for what he was doing, right? With the whole timeout thing. And
right,
he was on the Old Man and Three podcast with JJ Redick earlier in the year. Last season, and he was talking about, like I look back and it's not so much that I was against my no timeout method, but now I learn how to utilize them. I learn when to use them, how to use them. They're not always going to work, but But I think Joe really grasped a really solid understanding that he's also going through the ebbs and the flows of a season just as much as the players are. He's also learning on the go. And I think that showed tremendously this year. I mean, Joe was very, very solid. Randy, the big talk about Joe Mazzulla is he's known as the coach who doesn't call timeouts. And
Yeah.
I think you nailed it in your opening statement that, Joe really figured out when to utilize those timeouts and how effective they were. That there were many times this season and throughout the playoffs where, hey, Miami goes on an 8-2 run. All of a sudden, Joe Mazzulla takes a timeout. Celtics come out of that timeout absolutely locked in. And I think I really do believe that Joe Mazzulla has the perfect amount of crazy to lead
Right.
this team.
Oh
And
my
Yeah.
if there's a coach, and I'm not saying this to be biased, I'm really not. I understand we're a Celtics podcast and we focus on the Celtics, but if there's a coach to lead a team back to back, I truly do believe that Joe Mazzulla can do it. And I mean, this guy does his jujitsu dojo classes in the practice facility and makes the players watch him. Like, that's crazy. That's absolutely
That's
absurd. He does
amazing.
somersaults in the locker room and he quotes movies and talks about royal families. And like, I mean, Joe Mazzulla is just this perfect amount of crazy that this team needed to go out and get banner 18. So I'm definitely all over Joe Mazzulla, and I hope that I really believe he could be the coach to take us back to back.
It's so funny too, because I agree with you so much. I think he not only is the perfect amount of crazy because the man's crazy, and I love that. Again, I said it earlier, and like you said, we've all said it. The guy's crazy. It's perfect. But when you look around the league, and this is kind of like at times it felt like, to me at least, especially when he first got here in Boston, that he was in the bottom tier of coaches around the NBA. It just kind of felt like he was just getting outclassed by so many coaches, right? And which, again, was unfair to Joe because he probably was, because he had been thrown into a position a day before camp starts to be the head coach of a team with aspirations to go back to the NBA Finals, right?
Well, that's a crazy thing, Rob. He
Right.
got thrusted into a situation that is just barely like one step away from an NBA championship. It's not like, no disrespect to this teams, but it's not like he's being thrusted into a rebuilding team like the Hornets
Right.
or the Rockets,
Right.
where their champion their expectations aren't championship. Their expectations are, lottery or play-in team. Joe Mazzulla was thrusted into a win now
Yeah.
Get
situation.
back to the
Yeah.
finals or it's a
Right.
failure, right?
It's, yeah.
You in your first
Exactly.
year.
I mean,
Exactly.
you could even say win the finals or this, or it's a
Right.
failed year. I mean,
100%.
I know the stigma was get back to the finals or it's a failed season, but I mean, as Boston Celtics fans, for us at least, it was win the finals or it's
No,
it's win
you're
or
so
nothing.
right. You're so
It's
right,
win or
because if
nothing.
they were to get back to the finals and
Yeah,
come short, it's even
it's
worse than if
like
they don't get to the
no,
finals.
exactly.
100%.
I mean, yeah,
100%.
You know
Yeah,
what?
but
I don't think. Sorry to cut you off, Rob.
no, you're a guy.
But looking back at Joe Mazzulla's rookie year, he was one win away from the NBA Finals in his rookie year coaching, being thrusted in just 2 weeks before preseason. There's not a coach that could have led a team back from 0-3 than Joe Mazzulla. Like,
yeah,
game 3, Celtics lose. They're down 0-3. No team has ever come back from down 0-3. Joe Mazzulla's sitting there like, all right, we got to win the next game. We can still win the series. There was not a moment. There was not, and I know this. I know a lot of coaches play it off like, oh, like it's not over. You got to win 4 first. Like, we're down but not out. No, Joe Mazzulla, there, you can't tell me there was not a negative thought in his mind that they were going to lose that series. Down 0-3, they come back. I know we could talk about the Tatum ankle injury and in the game 7 loss at home. That's not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is, looking back at it, seeing the type of guy Joe Mazzulla is and how passionate he is about that, about this game. The guy was doing laps around the basketball court at 3:30 in the morning with his wife
yeah,
after the Celtics just won the NBA championship. I watched him climb on top of a duck boat and celebrate like he was the one playing, like he was the star, like he was the Jayson Tatum. Like, this guy is just so passionate about the game. And I'd be so comfortable with him, my coach, down 0-3.
Yeah.
And you know what is this is kind of where I wanted to go and talk about with Joe, right? Is that point right there, Justin, is that he, and mind you, at times this playoffs, he was out coaching. It was very clear he's figuring it out, right? But in terms of X's and O's, this guy is by no means in the upper echelon of the NBA, right? He's just not there yet. He's still just like a rookie, right? It's going to take time. Eventually, there's no doubt in my mind that he gets there. Because you just got to see a little bit more basketball. You know, guys like Spoelstra and Popovich less so. He's kind of fizzled out, right? But and Tyronn Lue, right? These guys have just seen so much basketball that their X and O's is a little bit better because they know exactly what to do and what doesn't work, and their schemes are a little bit more sound. But with Joe Mazzulla, it's his mentality that sets him apart. Spoelstra and Lue in these upper echelon of coaches don't come close to the mentality that Joe Mazzulla possesses. And I do think that matters in today's NBA in where we're trending, and players want a coach they can relate to. And I'll tell you what, when you see Joe Mazzulla, you know, like you said, in the weight room or playing pickup or doing jujitsu or whatever it is, and showing you clips from The Dark Knight and how you can relate to that, it's like there's a personal connection. And that's why Brad Stevens brought him in, really, was because the players all loved him. And they understood that they needed a guy that they could all get around. So as much as I believe Mazzulla will get there as an X's and O's top of the league guy, because he will, give it a year or two, right? Once he sees more ball, he will outcoach guys, outclass guys, no doubt. But what you'll never want to win more than Joe Mazzulla wants to win as a head coach. And that's exactly what this team needed. That's what he brings, and that's what they needed. So, I mean, big ups to Joe Mazzulla this year. Now, Justin, it's funny because you mentioned just now, 2 years ago when they brought in Joe Mazzulla, a couple days, obviously Ime Udoka had that whole ordeal and they had to deal with that. So guys, training camp and media day start. Media day is the 24th. Camp is obviously the following 2 days. I believe the 26th, they start camp. Now listen to this, guys. Now, this is the first year that the Boston Celtics have not made any major moves or drastic changes prior to the camp, with offseason or the couple days before. Knock on wood, obviously, we have some time. Don't want to speak too soon. Since 2015, guys, 9 years, almost a decade of changes in dramatic occurrences happening before training camp. Guys, listen to this. So now in 2016, the Boston Celtics sign all-star Al Horford onto the mix. So they're going into that training camp trying to work in Al Horford. The following year, guys, 2017, they bring in Gordon Hayward, Jayson Tatum, and Kyrie Irving in the big headline departure of Isaiah Thomas, who finished fourth in MVP voting that year, had played through a tragic passing in his family, who has chipped his tooth and put his heart and soul into the city. There was that drama. In 2018, they had Kyrie and Gordon Hayward, who absolutely, were deserving of their minutes, but they got, the injuries derailed them, and the young guys thought they deserved it, and there was that drama. Right. In 2019, there's the Kemba Walker introduction, and the Kyrie Irving finally leaves. Now you have 2020, Gordon Hayward departure, and you lose Hayward going into camp. 2021, in comes a brand new head coach, and out with the old head coach in Brad Stevens. Now here he comes. You bring in Dennis Schroeder, Enes Kanter, Josh Richardson. 2022, Robert Williams gets injured just 2 weeks prior to camp and media day starting. You bring in Malcolm Brogdon, who was the sixth man of the year. And then guess what? Just a day prior to training camp starting, guys, Ime Udoka gets suspended, and in comes a new head coach after just making the finals that previous year. And then let's go back to last offseason. Let's finish it off there. You lose Marcus Smart, who was the heart and soul of the team, Robert Williams and Grant Williams, who are fan favorites around the league, or around the Boston. You lose those two. Then you bring in Kristaps Porzingis in early July, late June, and then just a couple days before camp starts and media days around, right? You get Drew Holiday to come in. So it's like, all right, now we had no plans of camp starting with Drew Holiday. Now you got Drew Holiday. This is the first year in a decade that the Boston Celtics get to roll into media day. Again, knock on wood, and roll into camp with their team, with some continuity, with some, with a foundation set for these guys. How important is that, Randy?
Yeah, I mean, Rob, I think it's really honestly very simple to me at least. And basically, no moves, no drama coming into camp. I mean, basically clean slate for the boys, just go back to back, win it. I mean, but it's simple to me. It's Joe Mazzulla, Brad Stevens believe this group is good enough to go back to back. They don't need anything. I mean, they did bring in Lonnie Walker. I mean,
Right.
I could see him, maybe, getting a few minutes here and there. I don't see him playing very much this year at least. But yeah, they bring in Lonnie Walker. They re-signed Pritchard a while back. I mean, the O'Shea Brissett still, I think he has a chance. He could still go, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Technically, yes.
He could still go. That's not really a big move, but yeah, clean slate, and to me that really just says I am confident in the group I have. I don't need anyone else. I don't want anyone else. I like this group, and let's go do it and go back to back. That's really all I see it as, Rob.
There is no reason, and we have this clip of me saying this, and I'm going to say this before the season starts. There's no reason that in June, the Boston Celtics should not be back in the NBA Finals, let alone win the NBA Finals. Yeah. There's absolutely no reason. Now, I understand a lot can happen in the next months. I know that the roster could look different. Hey, who knows? Could go to hell, and come trade deadline, we could see some new faces in here. But right now, as we speak, Celtics are running it back. The Celtics absolutely believe in what they have, and there's no reason for them not to believe in what they have. They're coming off of how many wins? 64, 65 wins last year?
64, yep.
Yeah.
First in the Eastern Conference. No series in the NBA playoffs went more than 5 games. I mean, the Boston Celtics were clear-cut best team in the NBA last year through and through. They went, right. What did they go in the playoffs? 16-3?
Yep.
No, two, right? Or three?
Three, because they lost. Three. Yeah, yeah. I mean, they are historically one of the greatest teams of all time. That's just what it is. They are historically. This is a team that we're going to be telling our grandkids about. In reality, that's the team that we have.
Yeah, I mean, Justin, I was actually looking a couple hours back, and there hasn't been back-to-back champions since that 17-18 or no 16-17 Warriors team, right? Or was it 17-18? No, yeah,
you got it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and I mean, arguably that was one of the most, in my opinion, dominant teams in NBA history. I think that's definitely up there in the top 3. And to me, I don't want to jump the ship here, but the 2024 Celtics, I would put them right there with them. So to my point, I think if there's a team to go back to back, and it's been 7 years since, I think the 2024 2025 Boston Celtics are can do it. So
you're absolutely right, Randy. And something I said I was really big on last year was it's so hard in today's NBA to go back to back. And I'm going to stay true to that. It is not going to be easy for the Boston Celtics just to cakewalk their way to the NBA Finals like they did this year, right? It's possible, right? They're good, but the East got a lot better, right? Absolutely. But I will say this. If you look at each and every one of those teams that had won the title and fell short of, accomplishing that back-to-back, there was a major departure within their key and core rotation from the season prior, right? The last team to really keep it intact was the Milwaukee Bucks in 2021. However, again, they could have done it. They probably would have gotten past Boston in 2022 hadn't Chris Middleton gone down in the series prior against the Chicago Bulls, right? They probably would have beat Boston, and, they would have had a good chance at going back-to-back that year. You look at what Boston has done. No other team has been able to replicate what they just did. every team has lost a player because they got a payday elsewhere. A prime example is the Denver Nuggets losing Bruce Brown to the Indiana Pacers because they just weren't able to offer and pay him. The Celtics had this luxury of they got everyone back. You know, Hauser comes back, Tillman comes back, Kaida is back, right? All these, Derek White extended, Jayson Tatum extended, right? Like they all are able to make a return. And that means something when you're trying to win an NBA championship. And it means something when you're trying to go back to back. So Randy, Justin, I think you guys nailed it. The Celtics are the most suited out of all the past 6 champions who had won a title but hadn't been able to go back to back. They're the most suited to go back to back.
Yeah, Rob, it's interesting you say that because we were talking about all these guys we're bringing back, and you know Pritchard, I think it was 4-year deal. Hauser, we just give him 2 years. Tatum, Brown, they're all multiple year contracts, so it's not like okay, after this year we're just gonna whatever, we went back. No, we want more. We want 3 championships in 5 years, 4 championships in 6 years. It's not okay, we're gonna go back to back and then whatever. No, we have these guys on multiple year deals. They're not going anywhere. This is going to be the same team. We're going to keep adding as long as we keep our core guys. I don't see any trades happening. I'm sure neither of you do either. We keep, Mazzulla is doing his thing. Brad Stevens has been a mastermind for the Celtics. I could see us, genuinely winning 4 chips in the next 6 years.
You go down the roster that the Celtics have now going into training camp, and it's like certain years I've kind of been able to sit there and say like, oh, this player I just that's a roster spot filled. I don't know if I even see him being there past the trade deadline. A couple examples: Lamar Stevens last year. A little bit surprised that Svi Mikhailuk stuck around as long as he did. Justin Jackson 2 years ago. Point is I don't really see those types of players on this team. I genuinely don't. The Celtics see something with Luke Cornett. They locked him up. They see something with Kaida. They switched his to a standard contract and then extended them. Xavier Tillman seems to really want to be here, and the Celtics want to keep him. They extended him as well, kind of, maybe like a baby Al Horford. The Celtics are so locked into their roster. They brought back their two-way guys. They are quite literally running it back, with the exception of Svi Mikhailuk, who just signed a very solid deal over in Utah.
Yeah, good for him.
O'Shea Brissett, where we're not sure if he's going to stick around or not. We don't even know if he's not even on. He didn't even get picked up on a training camp deal anywhere yet.
Yeah, we don't.
So it's like the Celtics are quite literally running it back as far as they can get. They're bringing back the two-way guys. So I just think the Celtics really have their roster figured out. I'm going to be interested to see how the preseason goes. Just rotations and you also mentioned this in the last podcast episode, going back to Joe Mazzulla a little bit, Rob. It's like there's not going to be any really pressure this year with Joe Mazzulla in terms of like who plays, who gets what minutes. Like Joe Mazzulla can kind of mess around with these types of things. You're not going to have Porzingis till Christmas. Al Horford's not going to be playing on second nights of back-to-backs. Kaida, is he going to get the start? Is Cornette going to get the start? All these questions that we've been asking for the past couple seasons. We're gonna be able to be a little bit more lenient on Joe Mazzulla in the whole rotations thing, and we're gonna really get to see this out. So I just really think that the Celtics are doing a great job. They did a great job building this team. They did a great job locking this team up to the very last 15th man on this roster. And I'm really going back to my point, my opening point, where I just really don't see a guy on this roster that just willy-nilly gets cut or traded at the deadline. I really don't.
And again, they were able to keep their core pieces, the Tatums, the Browns, the Porzingises, the Holidays. That's big, right? That's huge. Absolutely. But it's the Hausers. It's the Tillman.
Exactly.
It's the Pritchards, right? Yep. And that is what makes me so confident, right? Yes. Would I be confident had we lost a couple of those guys? Yes. but I would have sat back here and thought to myself, this kind of looks similar to the past 6 NBA championships, right? Where here you are, you have this phenomenal team, you get to the finals, you win it, and then here comes the payday. You're a champion. Here's 4 year 60. You're a champion. Here's 3 year 30, right? It's just like money, right? It's like, but you didn't see that. They were able to keep their core together and their rotational pieces together. And I think that's what separates Boston from the field. That's what makes me so comfortable with their ability to go back to back. And of course, they have Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown forefronting their team, right? They're the top dogs. As long as you got those two, you're going to have a good chance to go out there and, at least get to the Eastern Conference Finals like they've done pretty much every year they've been in the league, guys. However, this brings us to another segment, another week of Around the Hardwood. You guys know this will be a weekly segment we have. It will pick up and it'll get a lot more fun once the NBA season is on underway. But guys, today we have 2 little fun games. I'm going to have Justin play one and Randy, you're going to play the other. Now, Justin, I won't lie. We talked about this.
I hate games.
Here we go.
I think games are so stupid.
Go, Justin.
Let's go. Hype me up, Randy.
Here we go. Let's go, Justin.
So Justin was a little bit before he started the podcast. He was
don't tell him I'm fine. I'm fine. Go.
He was all right. So Justin, I want you to blind rank these 5 NBA players for me. Starting off, we're gonna go Bam Adebayo.
4.
Jimmy Butler.
3.
Malcolm Brogdon.
5.
Tyrese Maxey.
2.
We're gonna end it with Paul George.
1. I have no choice to put him at 1.
I mean,
can I tell you something? Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
It's not a bad list.
That's not a bad list.
That is not a bad list.
That's not a bad list. Randy,
that's not a bad
list. I think I just killed it. I think I killed it. I mean, I think
you
Maxey,
could argue, yeah.
I think Maxey, I mean, it was blind. It was blind.
If I
had 20/20 vision, I would have nailed it.
Yeah.
Who did I put?
So
Bam,
you put
Bam
3.
might be, Bam. I put Bam 3?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right.
Oh, wait. No, you had Bam 4, Jimmy 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's still not bad. That's not bad.
Where'd you get those players? Where'd you get those players?
Off the top of my head.
Oh, that was ridiculous.
Well, I had them written down. But like when I came up with it was just 5 random players.
You just started Brogdon.
Yeah, when I sent you the script for this week, I sent you the version that didn't have the 5 players. So that obviously, because then it wouldn't be a blind ranking anymore. That would take the whole concept out of it.
Okay. All
right, now Randy, this means you're up, man. So we're gonna go a little bit easier on you, but I think this one's a little bit more fun in my opinion. We have the Eastern Conference. We have the top 8 teams in the Eastern Conference in their win totals for next year. Now, here's what I want you to do for me, Randy. I want you to tell me if they're going over or under these win totals brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. We're going to start us off from the bottom, the 8th seed from last year, the Miami Heat. Their win total is 44.5.
I mean, dude, the Miami Heat, it's tough. I have their under. I have them sitting right at about 43 wins. And here's my reasoning. I think with Miami, it's very, Jimmy Butler, superstar, heavy on him. And we need more from Tyler Hero. And we haven't seen it every year. And when Butler gets injured, it's going to come down to Tyler Hero. And to me, I think Miami is one of the most mid teams in the NBA. They have, Thomas Bryant. Come on, like Haywood Highsmith. They have just all these mid-tier level guys. They have the core of Bam Adebayo, Butler. But outside of them, I think Jaime Jaquez will make a jump this year, which will be great. But I see him bubble a bubble playing team. I don't see him much higher than 43 wins.
All right, next up, the defending Eastern Conference, not finals champions, unfortunately, but they had, coming off a Eastern Conference Finals appearance, the Indiana Pacers at 46.5 wins.
Yeah, see, I have them right there. I have them at 46. But my biggest thing is they just signed a 30. What is he? 30. I think he's 30. Yeah, 32-year-old TJ McConnell to a 4-year extension. They signed that man until he's 36 years old. We're not talking LeBron James here. We're talking about TJ McConnell. They could have used, I think they signed a 46 million, right?
Right.
Check me if I'm wrong, but 4-year, $46 million contract. I'm not high on the Pacers this year. I like Nembhard. I like Halliburton. And, it's going to be a good front court, but the money could have been spent somewhere else. I don't like the contract extension for TJ McConnell. So I have him at 46 wins.
This next team, I think, could be one of the most exciting teams to watch in the NBA next year.
Yeah.
The Orlando Magic at 47.5 wins.
Yeah, no, I love the Magic. I have them over. I have them at 50 wins. I have Paulo Banchero. I see him in an all NBA team. I see him taking a huge step. We know what we have down there with Mo and Franz Wagner. I like Cole Anthony this year. I think he takes a leap a little bit. But yeah, I like the squad they're building down there. Yeah, they got a good squad down there. Young, still very young, but yeah, I see them going over that total easy.
Paulo's got to be the most not talked about number one overall superstar.
100%.
So
100%.
What he did this year was phenomenal. In year 2, he brought him to the playoffs. He was an all-star. I mean, big ups to Paulo. I think their future is super bright there. This next one, interesting. The Cleveland Cavaliers, 47.5 wins.
Yeah, no, I have them at 48 wins. So just
that's
over
so
that.
Lame. That is so lame.
I don't think that they're I don't know. I think there are 3 better teams in the Eastern Conference. I like Mitchell. I like Garland. I think Mobley's going to take a jump this year. But once again, that Eastern Conference, like we talk a lot about the Western Conference and how much better it is, with the Clippers, Suns, whatever. We talk a ton about the Western Conference, but I think the Eastern Conference has some good competition too. And that's why I just can't have the Cavs much higher than I have them.
Where do you have them?
No, I have them at 4, but I don't like.
Who do you have over them?
No, I see it. So
well, let's finish off with the with the over unders here, because now we got the Milwaukee Bucks coming in at 51.5. Now this is the 4th team in this ranking.
Yeah, no, I like the Bucks a lot this year. Actually, I have them at 54 wins. Because I think Dame's gonna him and Giannis are finally gonna have the chemistry. We know what they have. Bobby Portis, Brook Lopez, we know what they have to offer. I just think Dame and Giannis are gonna finally figure it out year 2. 54 wins. So over.
I think the Bucks could be very good.
Yeah, as a Celtics fan.
Right. I think it really comes down to, are their legs going to stay there for the playoffs? Because they're all older. All right, so here we go. Number 3 here on this list is the Philadelphia 76ers at 52.5 wins.
Yeah, no, I got them at 49 actually. I know they signed Paul George. I have a good reasoning for this. I mean, how many games is Embiid playing? I do not see him playing over 65, 70 games this year. I am not a big Nick Nurse guy. Remember when he was back in Toronto, actually, and he got criticized for not being able to rotate his guys, and he's so superstar reliant. And on a Philadelphia team that you have an aging star who can't stay healthy, Maxey, yeah, great. Paul George, great. But outside of those guys, when Embiid's gone, those 2 are not leading you to, what was the total? 50, what'd you say it was?
52.5.
Yeah, he's not getting that. I can't see it. I mean, he's not, I'm just not a Nick Nurse guy. I just can't do it.
All right, coming in at 2nd on DraftKings Eastern Conference over-under list is the New York Knicks at 53.5 total wins.
Yeah, they scare me. I got them at 57. They're one of those teams that I liked what they did. They got OG Anunoby. I think Julius Randle is gonna have a great season this year. We know what Brunson can do. I mean, that guy, he can play with the best of the point guards in the entire NBA. Never mind just the Eastern Conference. I mean, he can play with the best of them. I mean, guy can drop 50 on any given night. They got Randle. They got Mitchell Robinson. If he can stay healthy off the bench, I mean, he can be seriously a weapon. Yeah, Bridges. I mean, I don't I actually don't love how they got rid of Quickly. He was a good piece for them, and I mean, I actually really like Quickly. I mean, he was a young star. I mean, I like they got OG, but I don't know. I was a big Quickly guy.
I don't think you get Anunoby without giving up Quickly.
No, you
In my
don't,
opinion,
but
I think Quickly was
yeah.
the guy in
Well,
that deal.
here's the weird thing about that is because then they go and get Bridges, which
Right.
is kind of counterintuitive for me, and it kind of resembles what Cleveland's got going on with Mobley and Jared Allen, where it's like, yes, they're great, but they're conflicting with each other. And, you know, it's tough when you have two players like OG and Mikal Bridges, who are both phenomenal in their own rights, but you're going to put them on the same team and ask them to do the exact same thing. It's like, how much of 3-and-D are they going to be able to give you and still be effective? Obviously, you can't get too much defense. So it will be interesting to see how they use Bridges mixed in with Randall. I think a big thing with New York is, can Brunson replicate what he did last year? Because if he can, then I love their over. If he can't, I don't like it. But again, it's not about me. It's all
Brunson's over under in the playoff was set at least 30 every single game. I swear. I mean, the guy, I don't know. I mean, if he can do what he did in the playoffs, even half the games during the regular season, they're going to be, you know, they could compete with the Celtics for the East.
Absolutely. And you say Celtics competing for us. Boston Celtics, the final one, 58.5 wins. Randy, do you think the Boston Celtics are going over or under their DraftKings win total?
Guys, what do you think my answer is? I mean, my non-biased answer is, of course, over. I have them at 61 wins. They're not skipping a beat. They didn't lose anyone. Joe Mazzulla got his shit straight with coaching. I mean, he finally pressed the right buttons. We got a mastermind back there in Brad Stevens. They're not skipping a beat. Celtics are going to win the East, but don't be surprised if the Knicks, you know, come within 2-3 games maybe.
Absolutely. All right. Well, guys, that concludes this week's episode of the CTW podcast, guys. Thank you so much for listening in and joining us again on our second straight week. Again, guys, we are back and we're going to be better than ever this year with talking all things C's and, of course, the new segment around the hardwood, looking at what's going on around the league. We think that it's going to be a lot of fun. Again, every Wednesday at noon, catch us right back here on either YouTube, watch us there, or listen to us on Spotify or Apple Podcast. Guys, Randy, thank you so much for coming on as your first episode. We're super excited to have you.
Thank you.
Justin, you'd already know the deal with you. Guys, thank you so much
for
watching.
What the hell was that? What the hell was that? What do you
Justin,
mean?
you already know the
Ian's
deal.
not here this week, so I don't have to take your crap. All right? How about you're my partner in crime? You've been with me since day one. I mean, what the hell? I'm wearing the company shirt. I'm in the company shirt. What the hell is that? Randy, don't you laugh. You'll never come back on again.
Man. Oh, man.
Oh, my God. All right. That's it. End the recording. I'm not here next.
I gotta add that as a new segment, just messing with Justin. All right, guys, but in all seriousness, thank you so much for joining us in and listening / watching to this week's episode. We will see you next Wednesday at 12, and don't worry, Justin is still gonna get poked at. Guys, until next time,
I'm not gonna be
go
here.
C's.